Have you ever felt like shrinking into yourself, not out of fear of the world, but fear of being truly seen by it? There's a quiet terror that lives in many of us, not of failure, not even of judgment, but of exposure, of being known, raw, messy, unfiltered. This is a video about that fear, the fear of being seen, and the invisible companion it travels with, shame. Shame is quiet. It doesn't scream. It whispers. But its whisper is powerful enough to shape how we see ourselves. It's not just the embarrassment of tripping in public or saying the wrong thing. It's deeper than that. It's the sinking feeling that says, something about me is wrong. Philosopher Brené Brown describes shame as the intensely painful belief that we are flawed and therefore unworthy of love and belonging. And when that belief takes root, it doesn't just live in the mind, it nests in the body. It shows up as the instinct to avoid eye contact, to slouch, to shrink, to stay silent even when your truth is burning in your throat. Shame arises the moment we become aware of being observed, when we feel ourselves turned into an object in someone else's gaze. You're no longer just you. You're what you think they see. And that imagined judgment can be unbearable. In that moment, we disconnect from our inner world. Our worth becomes conditional, based on approval, acceptance, perfection. But shame isn't only born from the gaze of others. It can be passed down, inherited, embedded in the unspoken rules of family, culture, even religion. It's the voice that says, don't be too loud, don't take up space. Over time, we internalize that voice, and we start to police ourselves, even when no one is watching. We don't fear the gaze itself. We fear what it might see, what it might uncover, what it might decide we are. Being seen isn't always a gift. Sometimes it feels like exposure, like standing beneath a harsh spotlight, stripped of every mask you've carefully constructed. Philosopher Emmanuel Levinas said the other, another person, another consciousness, is central to how we know ourselves. So we learn to curate, to become the version of ourselves we think will be accepted, to smile through discomfort, to present as perfect, to armor up in performance. It's a survival strategy, a way to avoid rejection in a world that often rewards appearance over authenticity, but that performance costs us something. The more we edit ourselves to be palatable, the more distant we become from our own truth. We start living in anticipation of the gaze, constantly checking, how do I look? Am I too much? Will they still accept me if I show them this part? And so, ironically, in the effort to be accepted, we abandon ourselves. We begin to fear not just being seen, but being seen incorrectly, or worse, being seen accurately and still being rejected. This is the root of the fear of being seen. It's about the deep human longing to be loved as we are, and the equally deep fear that we might never be. Before we continue, please take a second to like this video. It really helps more people discover these ideas. And if you're enjoying this journey into the mysteries of the mind, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. Now, back to the video. In a world that tells you to hide, to edit, to perfect, being vulnerable is a radical act. Shame tells us to stay small, to stay quiet, to only show what is polished and filtered, to never risk being too real. But vulnerability is a soft defiance. It says, here I am, not flawless, but whole. When we allow ourselves to be seen, genuinely, without the armor, we stop chasing approval and begin building connection. Because vulnerability is the birthplace of intimacy, not just with others, but with ourselves. It's the moment we drop the performance and simply exist as we are. The truth is, vulnerability does not mean oversharing. It doesn't mean laying yourself bare for everyone. It means choosing honesty, even when your voice shakes. It means showing up in your truth, even when you're afraid it might not be enough. It is not weakness, it is clarity. It's the quiet, steady power that grows when you finally stop running from your own reflection. To say, I don't have it all figured out. I am still learning how to be me. That is not failure. That is courage. Because every time you choose authenticity over perfection, You reclaim a piece of yourself from shame, and that reclamation, even in the smallest moment, is a revolution. Shame is rarely born in adulthood. Its roots trace back to the quiet corridors of childhood, when we were too young to question, too eager to belong, and too sensitive to forget. It begins in subtle moments: a disappointed glance, a harsh word, a withdrawn embrace. We absorb more than we understand, and long before we have language, we begin to shape ourselves around what feels safe. But over time, the rules we created to stay loved become prisons. We carry them into adulthood like invisible contracts. Don't be too loud. Don't act like that. You're too much. You should know better. And because children see themselves through the eyes of their caregivers, any failure in that connection doesn't feel like a flaw in the world. It feels like a flaw in us. We internalize the disconnect. We assume, I must be the problem, and shame plants its seed. As adults, we often don't remember the exact moment we learned to be ashamed of our needs, our bodies, our voices, but we carry the emotional echo. It's in the way we flinch at praise, the way we apologize for existing, the way we distrust joy. But awareness is the beginning of healing. To see where the shame began is the first step in choosing something different, because the child within you, the one who felt too much, needed too much, loved too much, was never too much at all. They were human, and they still are. Perfection is a lie dressed as salvation. We chase it like it will heal our shame, like if we can just be flawless enough, polished enough, undeniable enough, then we'll finally be safe. Safe from judgment, safe from rejection, safe from that old familiar voice that whispers, "You're not enough." But perfection is not a destination. It's a mirage, a shape-shifting horizon that always stays just out of reach. And yet, we keep running. We work harder, speak less, post the highlight reel, hide the scar, the stumble, the sob. But the pursuit of perfection costs us authenticity. Carl Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear to meet the world. It's not inherently false, but it's incomplete. And if we forget there's a self beneath the mask, we begin to mistake performance for identity. Perfectionism is not self-improvement, it's self-protection, a shield against the unbearable possibility that we might be unworthy. But here's the truth: we weren't meant to be perfect, we were meant to be whole. Wholeness allows for contradiction. It allows for tears and laughter in the same breath, for confidence and doubt to sit side by side. True healing comes not when we finally become perfect, but when we stop needing to be. Because when you give yourself permission to be seen as you are, you free others to do the same. And in that shared vulnerability, shame begins to dissolve. Healing begins not with fixing, but with witnessing. To be seen, truly seen, without correction, without critique, without the expectation to be anything other than what you are in this exact moment. That is where shame begins to soften. It doesn't take grand gestures. Sometimes it's a quiet presence that says, "You don't have to be okay for me to stay." It's the gaze that doesn't flinch when it meets your pain, the friend who hears the tremble in your voice and stays anyway, the stranger who smiles when you weren't sure you deserved to take up space. This is the medicine shame never learned to expect: gentleness. It is slow, quiet, patient. It moves like water, soft enough to flow, strong enough to wear down stone. And sometimes, the one who needs to witness you most is you. Healing isn't linear. Some days you'll feel free. Other days you'll shrink back into the shadows. But that is not failure. That is being human. Every time you choose to meet yourself with kindness instead of criticism, you reclaim a piece of your power. So let your healing be messy. Let it be non-linear. Let it be honest, and let it be yours. You are allowed to take up space. If this stirred something in you, I invite you to stay. Subscribe if you haven't. Let's start unlearning shame together. Leave a comment below. What does being seen mean to you? Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.